So this is your tote bag, which is quite cute actually. I like this one. I think it's really pretty. And actually when you squeeze the sides you can get quite a lot into there. So a piece of jewellery, you know, maybe a little scarf, something like that. Just really cute. So I'm going to start with the handle on this one because it looks quite strange when you see it. So I've got one that I've already scored out, so I know what I'm doing, to be quite honest with you. And then I've written myself little notes on this one. So when you cut it, you have two sections like this, and they have a tab there and a tab there. And what you're going to do first of all, before you do anything else, is put glue on there, and you're going to slot, show you like this, slot this tab under there and that tab under there. So a tab is still going to a straight edge, and you're going to glue those together like that. All right, so that's the bit that we're going to do first of all. So they almost interlock, if you like. So I'm going to do them both at the same time. And I found it easier to hold them like this and slot one under there and make sure that you get them as straight as possible. And there is a little score line just here that should be continual. So it should join together basically. All right, so you've then got that. Now your scores on here are as follows. So anything that is, if I look at this one here, just to make sure that I'm getting that the right way around, I'm going to turn that way so that I can work, that works more logically. So this vertical line, which is the first one up from the circle at the bottom, is going to be a valley fold. So we're going to fold that one up. I'm going to grab my scraper and fold that. Then the next horizontal one is also going to be a valley fold like that. And then my diagonals are going to be mountain folds. So it's different to the way it's the opposite of what we've done before when we've had diagonals. So we're going to fold that, make sure it's important that you give them a good crease, open it out, and then fold the other one like that. Okay, and then what's going to happen is that those are going to push in like that, and that's going to become like a little V. So I'm going to turn it round. I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. So first horizontal one is a valley, and the second horizontal one is also a valley, like that. And then my diagonal ones are mountain folds. So a mountain fold like that, open it out, and your other diagonal is a mountain fold as well. Okay, and then that, just push it, and that should bounce back in like that. Okay, so we've got that. Now our fold that goes from there to there is a mountain fold. So start on one end, and this is the bit that's actually the trickiest because you're working on a long thin strip. So go along like this, get those into place, and gently manipulate that card. Okay, don't go at it full belt, just gently manipulate that card. And then I'm going to go from the middle out and the middle out. And then when I get to these parts where the diagonal is, I'm going to lift this part up so it bends back on itself slightly, and then I can get my scraper in. So lift that bit up slightly, get your scraper on that diagonal. You'll be able to see it much clearer when you've got it in front of you. And then you've got your handle like that. Okay, so let's glue this one. So I've got glue right the way along there. So it's where that first triangle is there, I've got a little bit of glue in there, and I'm just going to fold that together so that it does that. It's quite difficult to explain, and it's also quite difficult to see, but I'm hoping that that makes sense. So what you then have is a handle that then curls. So just use your fingers, don't use anything harder than your fingers, because that will give you enough to just, you don't want to break the fibres, you want to stretch them. And that gives you then that handle, okay? So it takes a little bit of doing, but just be gentle with the card. It will take some welly, but actually you don't want to just, you know, go at it full force and then break it. All right, and then we'll do the same with this one. So I'll show you where I put the glue again. I'm going to open this out so that it's flat. I'm going to take my red liner tape and I'm just going to kind of line it up from, I'm working at the top edge because that's the bit that wants to seal. So where your first now vertical score line, because I've put the handle horizontally, your first vertical score line doesn't have any. Your second vertical score line, from the right hand side of that, you're going to go right across the top of that handle, get it as close to the edge as you can, until you get to the left hand side of this vertical score line, so the one that's furthest away from this end. Now, can you imagine writing this as an instruction? That's why we're doing videos. Because writing that down in words would be really difficult. And I know what I'm like at reading instructions, and it's like, line that up with the left-hand side of the back. And I'm like, I've lost it completely. So doing it this way is so much easier. And then I'm going to take the tape off here. And again, I'm going to just manipulate that in nice and gently, gluing it as I go along, like that. So then I've got my second handle. Make sure that that's pressed down nice and firmly with your glue, like that. And then again, we're going to take our fingers and just curve that handle like that, okay? And that is going to then go onto your bag like so. All right, so we've got our two handles. So let's bring in our actual bag net itself now, like this. So we have our front and our back and our base. Now this is going to have to curve, so this is where you've got to get a little bit creative. So I'm going to use this to move this net out of the way and just start to curve that card. So just wiggle it backwards and forwards, and that'll start to curve the fibres here, like that. You can do it over the edge of a table, but I don't know how clearly you're going to see that because the table's black and the card's black. So I'm just going to do it this way and see where we get to. So we've now got that, okay? And you can see how well it starts to curve, and all you're doing is that, okay? So I'm not stretching it, I'm just allowing those fibres to start to change shape. And then I'm going to work out towards the sides and do the same thing again. If you don't do this, what you'll find is that it creases rather than curves. Okay, so we've now got our two pieces. So I'm going to work one at a time here, I think, because the base is still flat. I need to think about how I'm doing this as I glue it. So let's get that one out of the way. Let's get this tape off here first of all. Let's take this piece and let's stick that into the centre of there like that. So we've got that piece in. And then this piece can start to bend. Can you see? So now instead of creasing, it's starting to curve, and you can just go in and work from top to bottom and then bottom to top and just curve this part here. You'll find that that works better. Just before I do that, I'm going to put some tape on these sides, otherwise that would be really difficult to do afterwards. So I thought I'd got all my tape on, but I've obviously missed a bit. So I'm going right up to the top because it goes off into a point. I'm going to press that down, I'm going to turn it over, and this is where you can get your scissors a little bit sticky, so have something ready to clean them because you're cutting through a longer length of tape. It wants to stick and pull apart. And then I'm going to trim that little bit off there, like that. And let's do the other side. So now I've already got that point where I've cut, so I'm going to line that up. And that's not going to work that way, Melanie, is it? Because it's back to front. No, ignore that bit. I'm going to put that down here and work this bit along here. Okay, press that down, turn it over and cut it from the back. Like that. And then trim this bit off. So we have to sacrifice a little bit of tape, but you know what? It is what it is. Right, so let's start to put this into place now. So let's get this one in place and stabilise that. There. And then let's get this one in place. So again, I'm going to work from, this is where you need to make sure that you've pressed your base down properly. I'm going to curve this like that. And I'm going to take the backing off this, tuck that underneath there and bend that round. So I'm not bending the base, I need the base to stay flat. I'm curving everything else around it. Okay, so then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side before I put these side pieces in. So I'm going to take this piece off because I've done that with the middle bit. Put it down, Melanie, learn your lesson. Put that on there. And this is going to be a little bit trickier because I can't get into the bag, so I'm going to have to think about how I do this bit. So I'm going to make sure that that is pressed down firmly before I start putting any stress on any other part. So that's going to slot in there. I'm going to try if I can do it this way. Again, you'll be able to do it whichever way you want to when you're at home because you're not going to be working to a camera. I've got to make sure that I get that bang on centre like that, otherwise the tabs aren't going to line up. Okay, so we've got that bit there now. And now we're going to start to manipulate this side to bend round, okay? And sometimes until you actually make the box, you don't know how you're going to stick it together. And sometimes as you're then deciding how you stick it together and it starts, you think of a better way. And that's all right because that's called learning. And we do that all the time. So what I'm going to do now is fold that into there, like that. Now, earlier on I said to you, you will never have a tab that goes to a tab. On this bag you do, because that's what creates that side bit, okay? So don't panic. This is the only project, I believe, that we've done so far where a tab will go to a tab. Okay, and that will give it, so you're going to put the tabs in together like that, okay, and that gives it a nice flat seam because otherwise you haven't got any support kind of, what's the best way to describe it? So if, for example, that just stuck over there, you haven't got this bit glued together at the top, all right? So I'm going to do this one first. So what I'm going to do is tuck the tabs in. This is going to be the trickiest bit of all, I think, getting the tape off here. So let me think about how I'm going to do this before I show you. Take that tape off there, open that out so it's wide, and take this tape off here and then tuck that in. And then very carefully, because once you stick tape to tape, it's very difficult to get it together. So I'm pushing those tabs down, and I'm going to get the two top bits meeting first of all, because if the top bits meet, everything else as I go down will also meet. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought. Like that. Okay, so let's do that again on this side so that I can talk you through that bit again. So let's take, this tape drives me crackers. Let's get that tape off there, like that. Let's tuck that in. Let's get this tape off here. Come on, little monkey, there, like that. Let's tuck the two tabs in, try and keep them apart as much as you can, and then line your top bits up like that and push that together. Okay. So you've then got your bag like that, and it's got a flat bottom. Okay, so it's curved, it's glued in place, but it's got that flat bottom. So then what you're going to do is put, I would use red liner tape for this without a shadow of a doubt. Decorate it first. No, put your handles on first and then decorate over the top, or decorate it first and then put your handles over the top, because then actually what you'll get is these nice little bits. So I was right in the first place. I would what they've done on this one is put the handles on and then decorated it. I actually think it will look better if you have the handles like that, so you actually see that detail. I think that will be a nicer finish. So I'm just going to do one of these handles. And I do think it needs red liner tape, to be fair. I think wet glue is going to take a little bit of a beating, I think, with this, because it's going to be carried by the handle and probably swung around, depending on the age of the person that you're giving it to. So I'm going to put red liner tape on here. If I gave this to my granddaughter, she'd be carrying it everywhere. She'd be taking it out in the rain and all sorts. So let's pop that on there and then cut around the curve. Don't be tempted to cut it straight and then just tuck the rest over, because it will create bulk. So just take the time to cut on the curve. Okay, because it's worth it to make sure that it's done properly. There's no point going to all this effort and then spoiling it for the sake of a bit of glue. Around there like that, and then I am gonna put a little bit on there just to make sure. Belts and braces, as my granddad would have said, just to make sure. I'm going to put a piece in there as well and cut round that curve like that. Okay, then I'm going to take my scraper and I'm going to burnish this down like that, and that is then going to stick on the outside of there. So I'll just do one for you, and then you've got the idea. Okay, so let's take all of this off. Just got to brave this one. There's no point doing this a piece at a time, it'll be far too fiddly. And then that, so I've got this first score line there. You just line up the circles basically. Like that, okay? And that will give you your handle, and then inside press down firmly, and then that's going to go over there, and your second one is going to fit on there like that, okay? So that is how you're going to put both handles on, and then I would put my decoration over the top. I think that works better. It's a bit of a funny one, trying to curve a double card like that. If you choose to, and I'm going to explain this net. This is the net that you get. So if you would rather have one continual handle, use the net file. The problem with having the net file like this and using this, and this is why I showed you the 2 tabs on the resize file, it's the way that I've just done it. On the net, it's one long piece. When you look at this, we've had to put them on a diagonal on a 12 by 12 already. So it means that you can't go much bigger. And you can't straighten them unless you've got a 12 by 24 inch mat. That's why we've split the handles on the resize files, because we had to. Or you just have a shorter handle on a bigger bag. Or you have a 12 by 24 inch mat and you rotate these round and then you cut them lengthways down the mat. But we have to think about every possibility that you might want to do. So that's why we've then split them in 2. So if you're thinking, well, why do I not just use that? You can, but as the bigger the bag gets, you need to make the handles bigger if that's the look that you want. Now, these pieces, that's your base piece. These pieces are just for decoration. So that is the piece that you could cut and fold, and that would become the closure on your bag. And then these are just your decorative elements that can go on your bag as well. It's up to you. So if you're making the net and you're just making that size that it is, use the handles as the net. If you're going to make it bigger, you can either use a 12 by 24 inch mat to cut the net handles, or you can use the resize file handles and glue them together. That's kind of the bottom line, but you will always get that fold in the middle because you're joining 2 pieces of card together. And it doesn't matter how much you bend that, you're still going to get that join there. So the choice is yours, but we've given you the option for any scenario. All right, but that, I think, is a nice little gift bag. I think that's great for teenagers as well. It's something a little bit different and a little bit more modern, I guess.